All right, everybody, good evening. It's a balmy 29 degrees out, so glad you're inside. Welcome to our regularly scheduled Zoning Advisory Commission meeting. It's December 7th, 2022. Call this meeting to order. Jason, would you please take roll?
Christ,
Here.
Kemp,
Here.
Mulligan,
Here.
Norton,
Here.
Russell, Semp,
Here.
and Zucchero is excused.
Okay, Jason, can you please confirm we are in compliance with the Iowa Open Meetings Law?
Yes, we are.
Thank you. Commissioners, in front of you are the minutes from our November 2nd meeting. At this point, I would entertain any modifications or a motion for approval.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Jason, if you would.
Kemp,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Russell,
Aye.
Semp,
Aye.
Christ,
Aye.
Mulligan.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. All right, so this evening we have 4 action items. We have 2 public hearings. Before we get started for the commissioners, I'll just run through the additional items that are on your desk in front of you. So there's a item titled, it's got Kane Reynolds on the front. That's going to be associated with action item number 1. You've got an email regarding Radford Road. That's public hearing item number 2. And then we've got a petition and a second sheet with a map on it. That's going to be regarding public hearing item number 1. So just FYI there. Okay, so with that, for everybody that's here, so the way this works, so we're going to go through our action items first. We'll do our public hearing items second. So as we get to your item, we'll ask you to come up, ask or state your name, state your address, let the commission know what it is that you're after. We may have some questions for you. Then at that point, we'll have you take a seat. And we'll run through the staff report and right on down the line, okay? So the first item here this evening is regarding 14868 West Ridge Lane, regarding a plat of survey of Kane Business Park. Plat number 2 is our applicant here this evening.
Dave Schneider, Schneider Land Surveying, 906 First Street North, Farley, Iowa. Basically here representing Tom Kane and his wife. This is actually out in the 2-mile jurisdiction of the city of Dubuque. That's why we're here. And the main reason I guess we're here is that the lot that we're creating does not have frontage on West Ridge Lane. And ultimately, the original intent of this property was to actually do a condo on this building, but because we were in Dubuque County, they don't really recognize condo associations, the condominium scenario. So they basically kind of forced us into a platting issue, which basically forced us into this review process. So myself and Tom on the technical side basically worked, I guess, through the Dubuque County and the city related to the access, the utilities, that sort of thing, providing the easements and the area for this Lot 1. The intent of the Lot 1 is to be sold to Cordell Truck and Trailer. They acquired the property to the south of this, of Tom's property. They also have been leasing the existing building on Lot 2 in Kane Business Park. And Tom is selling that to Cordell Truck and Trailer to basically act as their headquarters for their shop that they're intending to build to the south of here. The building that we're on Lot 1 is currently being used for detail work on the semis, trucks, that sort of thing. And they're also interested in purchasing that, and that's why we're going through this platting process. So if you have any additional questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Dave, I'm sorry. Can you go back to that map, one slide? I'm trying to get my bearings here. South is, where's south?
South, down.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Cordell Truck and Trailer owns the property to the south. They purchased the building right below that blue line, that one there where they've been leasing for years. And then the one with the red parcel around it, they've been also occupying for years and desire to own that as well, the one that we're actually surveying now.
Thank you, Dave. Any
If
other
there's any
questions?
other questions, or Tom Kane's here as well if you have questions about intent.
I do have a question, Dave. The area south of Lot 1 and east of Lot 1, is that actually part of Lot 1?
That is actually part of the remainder, Lot 2. Tom currently owns and operates his business out of that and leases other buildings out of that area, out of Lot 2.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions for our applicant? Okay, very good. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Will you be giving the staff report?
Jason will be given staff report.
Jason, okay.
Yep, thank you.
Apologies. Go ahead.
Assistant Planner Jason Duba. So the subject property is approximately 3.6 acres, located at 14868 West Ridge Lane. So that is outside the city of Dubuque limits, but within the city's 2-mile extraterritorial jurisdiction. So it's subject to the city's subdivision regulations. The proposed simple subdivision would create 2 lots on the property, Lot 1 being the smaller one and Lot 2 being the remainder. Lot 1 does not have frontage along a private or public street and is therefore considered a substandard lot. So following the UDC Chapter 11-14, all lots are required to have frontage, and so access to Lot 1 would be provided via an access easement extending from the western boundary of Lot 1 across Lot 2 to West Ridge Lane. So your task tonight is to review this and to consider granting a waiver to the requirement to have lot frontage.
Jason, I'm looking at the survey itself. That access, okay, so the access easement is identified there, right, between the 2 buildings? Okay,
Yeah, it's kind of the curved
yeah, okay,
line.
okay. Very good.
Is this on city sewer or is it on a septic system?
I believe it's on a septic system. But
Uh-oh.
Yes, it is on its own individual septic systems at this point in time. It is on city water. When they acquired the Central Iowa Rural Water, they basically took over those water lines, and the city of Dubuque serves this site, this property with water. And I know Tom has worked through the water access and future expansion of that with Branch Schuler at the Water Department.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was worried about the septic side of it.
What's that?
I was worried about the septic side of it. That would DNR classifies any water that hits a vehicle as industrial process water, which can't be dumped into a septic system.
I'm going to have to let Tom answer
So
that, I guess.
I don't know if that should affect our approval of the plat or not, but it doesn't have adequate sanitary sewerage.
Why
So-
would that affect our approval tonight?
I don't know.
So our preview this evening would be to review the subdivision request. The site improvements would fall to the county for review. We do not have jurisdiction over site improvements. However, with the exception of water, as Dave mentioned, which the Water Department has reviewed and approved the plat.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other thoughts, Pat?
No, that's just something I noticed that struck me as, you may have issues. I don't know. Depends on who catches it.
Not sure how long before city sewer will be out there.
Okay.
What's that?
I'm not sure when city sewer will be out there, so at this point.
Okay, any other questions for staff at this point? If none, I'll entertain a motion by the commission.
I'll make a motion to approve the plat as submitted and waive frontage requirements for, is it Lot 1? Or part of Lot 1?
yeah, Lot 1.
Okay, for Lot 1.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a second. Jason, if you would, please.
Russell,
Aye.
Semp,
Aye.
Christ,
Aye.
Kemp,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Mulligan.
Aye. Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, very good. All right, we'll move on to item number 2. Let's see, a plat of survey at Barnwood Lane and Rustic Point Lane with the associated parcel number. Let's see, Shagbark Estates Plat 3 is our applicant here this evening.
Start this one as well. Again, Dave Schneider, Schneider Land Surveying, 906 First Street North, Farley, Iowa. Basically, Jim Kress is here representing us as well if we have any questions about intent. But ultimately, I've been working on this property with him. He was annexed into the city back when the Rustic Ridge, Rustic Point, or whatever they're referred to, was going through the development process. Half of the street that goes north-south on the east side of the area that we're developing here needed to be acquired from his property. So that's why this was annexed in, and basically tying into sharing the utilities along that street as it goes forward for those lots. If he does any additional, it would be out in the county. We're right on the edge of the city limits there. So fairly basic, very similar to what's going on across the street.
Okay. Very good. Any questions for our applicant? Okay, seeing none.
Thank you.
Travis?
So as the applicant stated, they're seeking subdivision of these 3 lots. They do all have frontage of at least 50 feet. They are also all over 5,000 square feet as required. Your task tonight will be to ensure that they are meeting the UDC requirements of lot area and lot frontage. They are, as requested, the proposed subdivision should have little effect on the status of the subject of the surrounding lots. The city's comprehensive plan designates this area as a single family, and they will remain as such and will be unaffected. So the city's subdivision regulations are complied with, and they do meet land use goals within the City of Dubuque comprehensive plan. That's all I have, unless you have questions.
Very good. Thank you, Travis. Any questions for Travis? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve, or recommend approval of the plat for Shagbark Estates number 3.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Christ,
Aye.
Kemp,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Russell,
Aye.
Semp,
Aye.
Mulligan.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Dave. This one, okay. All right, our third item is a preliminary plat by Talon LLC at Plaza Drive with the associated parcel number for the Fox Hills addition. Is our applicant here? Okay.
Good evening, members of the ZAC.
Back, that's right.
I'm here this evening to ask for preliminary plat approval of the Fox Hills Apartments addition. We have this evening, we've purchased, or in the process of purchasing, about 23 acres from Roger Sherland, the underlying owner of the property. We've went through an administrative plat to have this, the outside of the boundary of this is coincidental with what we are purchasing. We've also worked with Mr. Sherland on a regional detention pond, which you'll see kind of dangling off on the side there in part of the drainage way. What I'm asking for this evening is a preliminary plat of 5 lots, as you can see here, with one outlot for the drainage pond. To give you a little bit of history on this, back in 2006, this development was started. And because of the recession, it went dormant through foreclosure. The streets, as you see here, were built. The utilities were built. The infrastructure was built. Sewer, water, storm sewer. Were all built. What we're going to be doing is, as part of this, is the plat will, the five lots will be bounded by the street and the perimeter boundary on this. The one outlot will be the detention pond. The streets will be dedicated to the public. Currently, they're private. They did not go all the way to final plat with back in the day in 2006, 2007. So what we will do is pick this up and finish the streets, sewer and water. The city engineering department have been good enough to identify the deficiencies. We'll take and do those, fix those deficiencies, put the final lift blacktop on this, and we'll have to do a little bit of cutting on it because we at that time it was slated for commercial. A couple months ago, we went through a zoning process on this from PUD planned commercial to a mixed planned commercial and planned residential so that we would be able to put on our 390-unit apartment complex. That apartment complex is going to be in 13 buildings, 3 stories each, 30 units per building with 13 remote parking garages and surface parking. We'll also have a community center, a pool, a dog park, children's tot lot, a green space, a bit of a storage area for tenants. We've worked diligently with your fire department. We're supplying a secondary access since this does not go all the way through to Derby. The city fire department has asked that we provide a emergency fire lane that is through that way, and as well as a looped water system. So we'll be adding that loop into an existing main that goes behind the AMC Theater. With that, we're working with the Ruby land property in the vacant lot in front and with the AMC people to obtain those easements at this time. We've had some very good discussions with them. The easement documents and everything are in their court right now for vetting. We'll have those back soon and be ready to take and get those filed. Looking at forward-looking, what we have left to do on this thing is we're in the process of preparing our construction plans for the civil engineering, for the grading, what utilities have to be put in here. We're going to put from our left side, just north of the drainage pond, we're going to put a storm sanitary line that drains to the north into the lift station. We'll be installing that, as well as I said, fixing up some of the deficiencies in the previous work that's been done. We have the construction plans left to do for building and for the site. We're finishing off our title work as soon as we get that, and if you're so willing to approve the preliminary plat, we'll be sending over our final plat request to Dave, that you know well, is doing our final plats. And we have the development agreements that we have to finish vetting with the city staff. With that, if you have any questions, I would try to do my best to answer them.
That was a very good explanation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess I have a question.
Okay.
You say the easements are still being, you have the easements obviously platted through your portion of it.
Yes.
Are the utilities that we're tying into, are they public utilities?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so you're just looking for the little stub connection between
But
the
our
public
line will-
utility and the property?
Correct. Our line will go from the street through that wiggly little driveway right there all the way down the driveway, and there's just a few feet, 25 feet from the end of our driveway to the utility line that lies behind that. There's an 8-inch water main that goes through there.
Correct.
The fire department has requested that we hook up to that, and we're in that process, which is a pretty normal thing to do with
absolutely.
with water loops. We want this thing done right, and we're very willing to go ahead and go through that effort of obtaining the easements at our cost and filing them, everything that has to be done on that.
Okay, but those are still in process? They're not,
They're in process, as I said.
the other
they-
parties have not officially 100% signed off and said, here you go, we
Correct.
agree? Okay.
With a big corporation like that, the Ruby part, the vacant lot, they've already read through, we've got a verbal approval, ready to go. They're waiting for the AMC folks, big corporation, worldwide corporation, and they have many layers of approval process that they have to go through. So I've worked with their right-of-way people, their real estate people.
Nope,
They're going to
nope.
kick it up. They're kicking it up now to their lawyers to vet the final easements that we have on that.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Any other questions for our applicant? Okay. Very good. You can have a seat. Is you, Sheena?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Yes,
Sheena?
Sheena Moon, Associate Planner. Thank you, Chair Mulligan. So the applicant did a really great job of articulating a lot of the details. I'm going to hit on some of them as well and just kind of give the commission an overview of the project. So as stated, this is a preliminary plat for the Fox Hills addition. So we've already kind of gone over general area, but just to for those in the audience who may not be familiar, this is at the end of Plaza Drive, just north of the AMC Theater and the Farm and Fleet development. So as a matter of process, so the preliminary plat is obviously, the preliminary plat went through review, but with the development review team. So the development review team does look and vet these for any major code compliance concerns prior to bringing it to the ZAC. That process has taken place. And we are looking for a review of, for compliance with the comprehensive plan this evening as well. So those are the two pieces that the ZAC, the Zoning Advisory Commission, is tasked with this evening. So again, this is an action item before the Zoning Advisory Commission, and this will go to City Council. It will go to City Council as just a consent item. It's not necessarily an action item for the City Council, just as an FYI to that. The next steps in the process, as the applicant mentioned, would be the site improvement plans and the final plat. And so we'll be reviewing those when the applicant submit those, assuming that there is an approval here this evening. The applicant did a great job of running through the plat, so I'm not going to reiterate that. The one thing I was going to mention was also the fire access lane and the looping for water. As they mentioned, they're working through the details of that at this time. So a little history here. The project was rezoned to allow for a multifamily development. It'd be 390 units on the proposed just over 23 acre piece of property. So 390 units, 13 buildings, detached garage, as well as some storage area for tenants that are residing on the property. The proposed plat does articulate that the streets and utilities would be dedicated to the city. Again, those would need to meet all current city standards before the city would accept those. The development also includes, as the applicant articulated, a clubhouse, pool, playground, tot lot, park, dog park, and additional open recreation areas. There is also included on this plat the 5-acre outlot, which is for stormwater detention, and the plan here is for that to be dedicated and maintained by the city rather, after 80% of the lots are developed. The city engineering would be looking at that and making sure that that would meet all city required codes. A subdivision is required to have at least 40 points of sustainability, and the proposed project does meet those 40 points. So as far as utilities, city water and sanitary sewer are available from Plaza Drive. Both are intended to be dedicated to the city. As far as traffic in the area, staff did take a look at this. We did estimate that there would be approximately 1,206 additional vehicle trips a day to the site, which certainly sounds like an increase, as it would be. It sounds substantial, but Plaza Drive is really has been constructed to be able to handle that level of additional trips in the area. So while there will most definitely be an increase of trips, it's not anticipated that it would have a substantial impact overall to the area. As we mentioned already, there would be 2 points of access to the development, one through the fire access lane, and then obviously the primary through Plaza Drive. And again, the city's development review team did review this and has signed off on the plat as proposed. With respect to the comprehensive plan, we've identified 4 different areas where we feel this project would satisfy the intent of the comprehensive plan. So fostering the development of new and additional housing products in suitable locations throughout the city, encouraging a mixed use of housing affordable for all segments of Dubuque's population throughout the community, encourage new multifamily development in proximity to jobs to minimize transportation costs, and integrate multifamily development within mixed use areas for increased access to goods and services in a walkable environment. I will also just say that staff has included in the staff report a recommended condition of approval. And this would be that the preliminary plat approval be contingent on the execution of a subdivision improvement development agreement. The applicant is aware of that, and they are actively working with engineering to work through that document. But that would, with that, we have not received any public comment or feedback one way or another, and staff's available to answer any questions that you might have.
I have a question for staff.
Yeah.
Sheena, does the plan submitted substantially comply with the PUD that was approved a few months ago?
Yes, it does.
Perfect. Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions for Sheena?
The only other comment I have is, do we need to throw another contingency on there, being the easements connection to the water main are successfully negotiated, or do we wait until final development?
So we
can do it
you could
either way.
certainly do that either way. Absolutely.
Yeah, that would probably be appropriate
Either put the condition on now or
now. So Sheena, it was referenced by the applicant, but I'll just say it. So the road is substandard. So all the conditions of the existing road and utilities
Would need to be brought up to current
what we know has
standards.
been shared
Correct.
to that. Okay.
Yes, correct. Yep. And the applicant, I will say, with respect to the easement portion of the discussion, has shared with us a draft of those agreements. So we've had visibility to those and as they're working through them, just to ensure there obviously isn't any concerns from the city standpoint, but also I think the applicant is just trying to be very transparent with.
No, I understand
with their
100%.
process too.
It's just that an easement isn't in place until it's in place,
Certainly.
you know? And, I mean, the applicant's really in a hard spot because they're waiting on somebody else to actually get off the pot. You know, but yet, until that happens, they don't have that access to that water main, they don't have their loop, they can't meet the requirements, on and on and on and on. And it's probably, I don't know, it's probably a non-issue, but if it's not approved now, or if the easements aren't handled now, or even further down the road by the time the final improvements are in place, then that's going to hold it up then. So I don't care if we want to make that a condition now or wait till final plat, but
I think you do it now.
sounds good to me.
I think you should make a motion.
I'd be happy to. Are we ready for it? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for, I can't even remember what the name is.
Fox Hills Edition.
Fox Hills Edition with subject to approval of the development agreement
Correct.
and securement of the easements on the adjacent property.
I will second.
Very good. Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Kemp,
Jason?
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Russell,
Aye.
Semp,
Aye.
Christ,
Aye.
Mulligan.
Aye, thank you. Very good, thank you. Okay, so the next item, number 4, site design waiver. I will let the commission know that we will need 4 affirmative votes required for this to pass. So with that, let's see. We are at 750 Dugan Drive. waive site design standards within Chapter 13 of the UDC. Is our applicant here? Yes.
Hi there. My name's Ryan Anglesey. I live at 205 Hanley Way in East Dubuque. I am here tonight. I own a 4-unit apartment complex at 750 Duggan Drive, and I am proposing to construct a 30 by 30 detached garage as pictured there. I'm going to use this, it's going to be a multi-use garage. The north, so it's 30 by 30 footprint. The north 10 feet by 30 feet will be used for tenant storage units, and I will retain the additional 20 by 30 feet for equipment storage, riding lawnmower, snow blower, shovels, flooring, appliances, things that are in my garage currently. The UDC Chapter 13 requires a 10-foot landscape buffer because the 30 by 30 structure is greater than 25% of the existing footprint of the building. In 2014, we replaced that driveway and city sidewalk, putting back exactly what was there. And as mentioned, the removal of that parking space would bring me down to 5 parking spaces for that building, and I'm required to have 6. So I was just looking for a waiver on that 10-foot landscape.
Okay, very good.
Any questions?
Any questions for, was it Ryan? Any questions for Ryan?
Yeah. Is there any other way you could add a parking stall on this site?
Not, I don't believe without going into, deeper into the yard, I suppose.
Right, but I mean, is that even possible? Is that I don't know about topography.
It would be possible, then resulting in pushing, the shop.
Or even next to the shop, there's that little sidewalk that goes up the side there, putting one here, a couple here. Here. Yeah, can you?
Yeah, so we kind of intentionally offset the building, the proposed new building, because that's kind of where the snow crew pushes snow in the winter. We're kind of landlocked there. There's really nowhere to go with snow. So they pull in off of Duggan Drive and push it all the way down to the end of the driveway and kind of just dump it there. So if I were to put a parking spot there, that would limit some of those options.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we exhaust all options before we give you a waiver.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's a requirement. It was a requirement in 2014, but it didn't apply to you because you weren't over the
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah.
Correct.
Any other questions for our applicant? Okay, thank you. Let's see, Jason, is this you?
Yes.
Okay, if you would, please.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ryan.
So the subject property is a 15,900 square foot lot, and the site is improved with a 2-story, 4-unit apartment building with a footprint of 1,728 square feet, and there are 6 stalls in the parking lot. So the property owner is proposing to construct a 900 square foot garage behind the apartment building at the far end of the parking lot. Because the proposed garage is an expansion of more than 25% of the existing building area, the UDC requires the entire site to comply with all site design standards. So the site has been reviewed for compliance and was discovered that the existing parking lot layout does not meet the standard of having a 10-foot wide landscape buffer strip to be provided along the frontage of the surface parking area. Compliance with the parking lot buffer strip would necessitate the removal of one of the existing parking stalls, and therefore the applicant has requested a waiver of that standard. Thank you.
Okay, Jason, thank you. All right, any questions for Jason regarding his report? Okay. So I guess conversations amongst the group here. So you've got an elevation view. Didn't we have a shot from the street? Am I missing that?
Like that.
Oh, yeah. Why don't I have that?
Let's,
Yeah, it's in the About the
back.
fifth
also one in the
or sixth page of the packet.
Thank you. Yep, yeah. So,
So Pat, the alternative is you put a stall in that's perpendicular to the current spot, right?
Off the end down there, yeah.
In theory, which is,
You can't really tell what the grade does back there. Looks like it falls off.
like it falls,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I get your point that we want the waiver to be the very last. Last thing. The alternative is you put a perpendicular stall. I think it does create issues for how he deals with
snow and,
and all
yeah.
that good stuff. What's the access to the storage?
And I'm not saying that I'm totally opposed to this. I'm just trying to make sure
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
we exhaust all options.
Yeah. Nope, understood.
Chair, Mr. Chair, what would other members think about requiring additional landscaping elsewhere on the property in lieu of the 10 feet adjacent to the right-of-way?
Can you flip it?
What if they put another tree right in here? in front?
I mean, if we look at this, there's what, looks like there's one tree in the front yard.
Yeah. put
So I was
another
thinking
tree
maybe
over
one
here.
on the other side of the front of the building, right there,
Right there.
somewhere. It's a trade-off.
I think that's a reasonable.
Would he be okay with that?
Can I ask, what is this might be a question for staff, but what's the purpose of the 10-foot buffer?
It's essentially to provide a well-landscaped environment that sort of breaks up the sea of concrete that can be created along surface parking lots.
Would additional landscaping, like a tree in the front, address that? Or would it, I mean, it doesn't really break it up from the sidewalk if we put a tree in the front, but it does cost money to the property owner.
I guess that's our decision. That's our call to make. It's either that or else we tell them, no, you need to do this, you need to cut that concrete out, put a landscape island in there, and figure out a place to put another stall. I mean, that's what would happen if we'd say no.
Yeah.
And that's,
But in order to do that, I think a tree would be far less expensive.
Sure.
we ask him if he's okay with things.
Well, as Jason said, the intent is to have some breaks from your concrete or asphalt or what have you. So I think that's a pretty fair ask to, consider an additional planting.
Right in the middle of this yard, yeah.
I think it's up to the owner of the building. You want it up front?
Can we ask him to come back and ask you?
Of course. Yeah.
Ryan,
The applicant, please.
What was the question?
on this side over here?
Yes.
Would you be like a tree, some
I'd be happy to. I know that it just may cause problems down the road with roots breaking concrete and sewer lines and things like that, but sure. I think,
Does it have to be a tree? Could it be something else? Because I've witnessed too, concrete will lift right up with a tree over the years.
yep.
So then you have to replace the concrete.
I mean, I think by over the years, we're talking 30, 40 years down the road.
The neighbor has a great tree. I think a tree is fine and you're doing good.
yeah.
I think that's a pretty marginal ask.
I don't know. I definitely understand your concern,
Yeah.
but I mean, I've got a tree in the green space between my sidewalk and in the street of my house, and it's been there at least 30 years. And it's a slow growing maple, but still, it's nowhere near. Let's still have another 50 years before we're gonna have a problem.
I think as the commission, you can require a planting, an additional planting, and the owner can make a decision on what that planting is.
I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just say, I think if folks feel like that is the direction we want to go, I think that's all right. I will voice that I think my preference is just to grant the waiver. But if my fellow commission members think that the tree is important, I'll support that.
Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I mean, we can make a motion right now just to approve the request, and that wouldn't require anything. Or if somebody else makes, and if we vote yes, no, whatever it is, we can turn around and make another motion then, can't we? To decide what, you know, that's how we would essentially decide this issue, wouldn't we? I'm trying to figure this out procedurally.
Well, yeah, or we can make a motion with the additional contingents.
We could do, yeah, right, one way or the other.
I mean,
Just who makes the motion first?
I'll make a motion
Okay.
to approve the request to waive the site design standards as far as the 10-foot buffer goes, but to require a tree in the right front yard of the apartment building.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and we have a second.
Norton?
Aye.
Russell?
Aye.
Senth?
No?
Christ?
Aye.
Kemp?
No.
Mulligan?
Aye. What did we have there, Jason?
4-2.
4-2.
Okay.
Motion passes.
Okay, 4 affirmative votes were required. So thank you,
you.
folks. Appreciate it, Ryan. Does that go to council?
No, that does not go to council.
Okay, so
It's
that's-
just a,
okay.
Yep, just the zoning. Which
Thank you, Commissioner.
reminds me, just as a matter of action items, the action items that were heard tonight will go to the October 19th.
December.
I'm sorry, yes, definitely December 19th. And that would be the first 3 plats rather on the agenda this evening.
Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to recuse myself from the next 2 items
Very
on the
good.
agenda,
Okay,
because our company's been involved with them.
sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are going to move on to our public hearings. So similar to the action items, so we'll ask you to come up, state your name, state it is what you're after from the Zoning Advisory Commission. After that, we may have a question or two for you, and then we'll open it up for public hearing at that point, is really the big difference. Any items that are stated within public hearing, you will have the opportunity as the applicant to come back up and discuss those. So with that, we'll move on to our first item here at, let's see, Rosedale Avenue in St. Ambrose. A variety of parcels listed there to rezone from an R1 single family to OR office residential. Is our applicant here this evening? Okay, come on up.
Well, I'm Tom Kelzer. I live at 9565 Royalwood Drive, Piasta. And so myself and Gary Carner are here on behalf of GT Development, who have put offer in to purchase the St. Anthony's property. And as it currently stands as R1, we'd like to take the old school building and convert that into apartments. With the designs we're working with now, it would be about 21 to 23 apartments. And as we've been working, we would have a portion of the front parking area that exists today would become part of this property. And with the configuring of that parking, we have about 36 parking stalls. So we're a little over the 34 we need if we go to the 23 apartments. The lot across from the alley, our primary focus is going to be to work on the building, get those apartments completed, get people moved in there, and then we'd work on the other property. And as of today, we would look to put apartments on there as well. Understanding we would have to follow the same rules as far as parking and, requirements and everything else that goes along with it. I guess we're asking for office residential to leave a little flexibility if, over the next year, I think everything within the office residential is, conducive to the neighborhood, anything that would be able to go in there and have a little flexibility if something else were to come up for that property. So we're just here looking to get it rezoned to office residential.
So Tom, I do have a question. So right now, you're under contract on the parcel, right? Parcels?
We do have a contract, yep, purchase agreement, yep.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. Any other questions for our applicant? Okay, Tom, you can have a seat. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to open this up for public input. So what we'll do is if you're here to speak on behalf or opposed, whatever you're here to say, you'll step up here, state your name, your address, what you want to say. There's a few of you in the room, so if we feel we're maybe repeating efforts, feel free to say, I'm repeating what was just said. With that, we'll open that up. So come on up if anybody's here to speak for or opposed.
Richard Miller, 2080 Rosedale, and I'm here to oppose the rezoning up there. And what I did was talk to Planning Services and ask them about a petition if I could do that, which they said I could. So the last few days I went out to neighbors and got a petition, and I believe it's in front of you. And it was pretty much, all opposed in the neighborhood to what's going on. And we have a number of reasons that we believe it wouldn't fit well within the neighborhood. One is that right now it's residential parking E up there, which is we pay to park in front of our house. So, the city knows that it's an issue up there with parking and everything that's going on. We think that with all the extra cars and traffic and everything in this area, it would be a danger and just too much for us up there, so.
Okay.
Other than that, I'll let some of the other people talk to their parts too, so thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Okay.
Hello. My name is Austin Clark. I reside at 2020 Rosedale Avenue. I am here in opposition as well. Again, I'm not going to say what Rich said already, but parking is already a big issue. It is a really busy area. As you can see from the picture already, there's the high school right there. I would call this an atypical neighborhood in that there's a high school right adjacent. There's a college just outside of the picture is where the college is. So there's already a lot going on in this neighborhood. It's very busy. The petition clearly shows the local community not in favor of what's going on. And then there's some quite dangerous intersections. I don't know if there are any studies I haven't been able to find from the city, but right there, Rosedale, Avoca, and South Grandview. I live right there in that corner, and it's, I would say, I'm approximating 2 to 3 accidents a month there, which happen in disabling vehicles that are towed away. I get to watch out our building all the time. We did meet with the developers last night, and I appreciate them giving us the opportunity to do that. It shows that they are committed, at least to the community, so I appreciated that. Within that meeting, they asked us multiple times to look at who they were, what they had done. They're real estate professionals, as they stated, and they have many properties. So I did just that. And I found some concerning, I guess, evidence. I'm not going to name names, but within GT Development ownership, there have been filings against them with the state of Iowa, according to the Iowa Real Estate Commission. So they're asking our neighbors to be people who have, I guess, known issues with real estate development already. I have the documentation. I'm not here to publicly ostracize anybody, but if you would like to view what the filings were for, those are available here. Lastly, I was looking at the zoning outline. I believe you can get this right off the website. So in the or residential, it talks about rezoning for intended use. And it says, I'll just read directly if I could, if that's all right. This or district is not intended to have any application in an undeveloped or newly developed areas of the city or land made vacant through intentional demolition. Development standards remain flexible to allow conservation and reuse of existing buildings. And I believe that's key, existing buildings. This district should be located in areas that are abutting arterial and or collector streets. So to me, the big thing there is unimproved area. I would consider this rezoning request 2 different areas that are separated by an alleyway. One is completely undeveloped at the time. They've taken everything off of that. I think it's like a 1.3 acre parcel of undeveloped land with only a fence on it. So my question to the board would be, how would that qualify, considering it is separated by a city street or alleyway, and there is no existing structure on there. So that would be another question of how it even qualifies for this request. And that's it. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Austin. Anybody else here this evening? Yeah, okay.
Hi, I'm Jill Barden. I'm at 2154 Rosedale. I live directly across from the school and behind the church. I am right next to an alleyway behind the church. There's a median right close to in front of my house on Rosedale, which is precarious. We've observed, I've lived there since 2017, the school year, with all the traffic that went through there. The street, I believe, is not even wide enough. If the residents in this, if they develop into apartments, if they got permits to park out on the street, it leaves room for about 1 car to get through there safely. It was always jockeying. After school, parents would park on both sides of the street, and there's only room for 1 car to safely get through there if cars are parked on the street. Plus, again, like he said, it's zoned for E. You have to have permits to park on the street. They're not going to have enough parking. They said 1.4 or 1.5 parking spots per unit. As we know, in these day and age, there's usually 2-car families. You're going to have 21 to 23 units. They're not going to have enough parking, so they're going to have to park on the street or, break protocol and park in St. Anthony's portion of the parking lot. The other concern is that empty space. They want to eventually develop that into another possibly 2-story, 3-story apartment complex. It's already kind of sitting up on a hill. There's no other access to that other than, like he was saying, through the alleyway. And it also, a building that high would obstruct the houses across the street from it on Clark, which I know is a concern for some of the residents that live over on that street. I live behind the church and the old school, the STEM building, and at a certain point in the day, my property is completely shaded by the building. And that's what their concern is too, is that from sun up to almost sundown, they would get no sun on their property. Which, affects trees, plants, anything they've got going on at their houses. The school portion, I understand, that's a good use for it, but I think we need to look at maybe a traffic study and look at additional parking. on their property. Those are my concerns.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? For or against? Okay.
My name is David Frummel, 995 Prince Philip Drive. I'm the realtor with American that is, have been trying to sell this building, et cetera, since all the school children, everybody else has moved out. We've, in the time that we've put this out nationally, we've had over 26 groups that have come through on numerous times. All of those, I want to point out, all of those came back with their ideas, which are multifamily, highest and best use. So when we've had a number of calls and everything else, but big thing is that we're, in what we're doing with the STEM building or the school building, old school building, being for apartments, we have to meet certain codes, as you know, in reference to parking. Tom already brought that up in reference to that. We have it based on city code. The church is retaining their lot on their portion, so that's not a problem. We have access, as they mentioned about the alley, there is 2 cuts or 3 cuts in reference to Rosedale. Bottom line is with this property with having tenants, compared to when you had it as a school or whatever, the number of traffic counts in and out of that are going to be much less. At least that's in our opinion. And so we wanted to make sure that you understood that part when what we're trying to do there. And it's a tremendous location in the middle of the city. As you've approved some things tonight on the west side, and you look at downtown with things that have happened down there, this is a terrific location for multifamily, which I know the city has also been trying to get more of those apartments. So I just wanted to make sure you understood that, though. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, any other comments from the public this evening? All right, very good. So what I'll do is I'm going to close the public hearing session of it. I'll give the applicant the opportunity to come back up and discuss anything that you might have just heard.
So I guess I'd just make comments on the traffic and traffic patterns. As Dave brought up, when it was a school, I think even as recently when Our Lady Guadalupe was in there, and then after Resurrection, there was about 200, 250 kids that were going to school every day. So in the mornings, you have many, many trips of people dropping kids off. Same thing at the end of the day. Evenings, there was, I think, 35 to 40 teachers is what they were saying was in there. So they, for traffic coming in and out as well. With the apartments there, I think the biggest thing is people are going to travel at different times. It's not going to be such a block and heavy traffic in the morning and in the mid-afternoon where, it'll be more transient, people coming and going. So I, feel that the traffic issues wouldn't add to what's existing already there from what it was before. That's all the comments I'd have.
Thank you, Tom.
Is there any questions?
That's great.
Tom?
Do we have a question for Tom? Sure. Sorry.
A little slow on the draw there, but could you talk a little bit about if and when you would, if this is approved and you would build a second building, you would provide additional off-street parking? Is that correct?
So whatever we would provide on there, yes, we would have to provide off-street parking to satisfy whatever buildings we put on there based on the same, requirements there would be for this building.
All right, thanks.
So if there's additional apartments, we'd have to meet the same requirements.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. All right, our staff report. Sheena, is that you tonight?
It's Travis this evening.
It's Travis. Okay, Travis.
Assistant Planner Travis Schrobelgen. So they're looking to rezone the field, the building, and a portion of the parking lot from R1 to OR. This is in a mixed-use neighborhood with the high school nearby. There's commercial hubs nearby to the west, southwest, and south, as well as the church, which is an institutional use. The OR preamble was mentioned, and I would reiterate or repeat some of those, that the OR district is intended to permit adaptive reuse of existing building stock, which that first proposal is, or the first development proposal is, and it would be normally a residential in character, which is proposed. Development standards remain flexible to allow conservation and reuse of existing buildings, and it should be located in areas abutting arterial or collector streets. Asbury, which is nearby, is a minor arterial, and Clark Drive is considered a collector, a major collector, so according to the Iowa DOT. So with that, I would also add that St. Ambrose has approximately 3,100 vehicle trips. It's considered local. 1,200 on Rosedale, which is local. 9,800 is on Clark, and then about 12,000 on Asbury. And we would expect negligible increase given the previous use of the school as well. The comprehensive plan goals promote a mix of housing and mixed-use development, and to integrate in a variety of residential types in mixed-use areas, including multifamily, townhomes, apartments, and single-family. The proposal would create the opportunity for a mix of office and residential units within proximity to a high school, a college, and jobs throughout the area. Any development particularly on the north portion would require a development review team, which gets all city departments reviewing all the requirements for development. So there would be added parking no matter what goes in there, but how much would depend on what buildings are being built. We did receive public input. There's that petition before you. And then Rich Miller, who spoke today, also submitted a web QA. In addition to that, a residential parking district was mentioned. Those are normally located around colleges and high schools, people where there's large increases of obviously driver age students and people coming in who are not necessarily from the area, the block, wherever that district is. I do not know the boundaries of that, but there is one there. And I do not know the details on whether an apartment building would qualify for that, or if that's duplex or single family. As far as the zoning district going across a right-of-way, we often see zoning districts spanning out to the middle of a zoning district or to a right-of-way. And as you can see, around there is all R1. So going across a right-of-way is not typically an issue. I would just add that the developers did hold their meeting last night, which we were always in favor of and we recommend. And I believe that is all I have, unless you have questions. And this would go to December 19th City Council, if approved.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. Or Travis, excuse me. Good grief. Sorry. Okay. Any questions for Travis? So I want to mention this for our commission and for maybe those of you that are in the room as well. So this is really one of the first steps for any developer, is to make sure that the zoning is appropriate. And as I had asked the question, if the property had been purchased yet, and obviously that has not occurred, that I would assume that's a condition of sale, is that the zoning is what they need it to be. One of the things that your city does is it holds some pretty comprehensive meetings, as was referenced through a design review team meeting, and those are what is the folks within that room or on that call or whatever it is, typically it's call, but are representatives of the many groups within the city, fire, engineering, et cetera, traffic being one of them. And so what was brought up tonight, a lot of it was the parking and the traffic, which we understand. And what is reviewed in detail by that design review team is the traffic and the parking in detail. So there are parking requirements based upon the quantity of units that the developer is discussing. I can't remember what I heard. I think I heard 26 or 23 or something to that effect.
23.
23. And so there's a minimum standard that has to be met as it relates to that. And as you look at the parcel across the alleyway there to the north, the same rules are going to govern as it comes to that. It's going to be I will tell you, it's a highly regulated process by your city for the reasons that you brought up tonight, to make sure that we are not producing a parking situation on Clark, on Rosedale, on St. Ambrose, et cetera, that puts you as the residents across the street in a precarious situation. And so I want you to know that. So the approval or not this evening, but once that does occur, that doesn't give any developer the free rein to say, okay, we're going to go turn this into what have you. What I want you to take away is there are a multitude of steps of which you're a part of. And so you can continue to make those discussions or have those discussions, but also educate yourself on how, as will the developer, on what the requirements will be for them to satisfactorily produce 23 units in that building. So I think those are all important things to state. This is really step one of many steps. And that should be encouraging for those that are living around it. And obviously the developer understands very much so the steps that are in front of them. This is simply step one of many. I think it is worth mentioning. I mean, clearly the school produced traffic when the school was there, right? Any apartment building typically does not, I mean, it certainly produces traffic based off of the tenants that are there, but you know, the timing and such is pretty hard to suggest it's all at one time or not. But so I wanted to say that I appreciate all of you coming out and the work that you did. I think it's all positive for the developer to understand what the concerns of the neighbors are, and those meetings should occur, and those should be things that you want to continue to request. And so with that, I will stop and pause for any other conversation amongst the commission.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I do want to kind of echo what Chairman Mulligan said and just voice appreciation for the community members that showed up today to voice their thoughts and concerns about the potential development that could occur at this location. A lot of it was related to traffic that I heard, and I can understand that concern, and it was reassuring to hear, I believe from my perspective, what was used to be there and how much traffic and why that was so bad at the time, that there were, I believe it was stated 250 or so kids and parents dropping off their kids and teachers. And I think with the proposal that's in front of us that you can be assured that it won't be as bad as it was when that school was there. So I will likely be supporting this tonight, but I do want to thank the people from the community for putting together the petition and for coming here to voice your concern, and encourage you to stay engaged in the process throughout. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
I just have a question. So is it premature then to ask for a traffic study? Because I can totally appreciate their comments with the traffic. I mean, I travel that area, and I just think of things like a mortuary or funeral home, nursing home. I mean, I just don't know if that would be, unless we start excluding things also from residential.
Yes, both of those are potential options. As far as traffic's concerned, the initial development will be for the school itself. As previously stated that change in traffic or that proposed use did not trigger a traffic study. When we get a development for that northern portion, it would be up to the traffic engineers, but there may be a traffic study at that time if it gets to a level that they're of concern.
Okay.
Yep.
And we're being asked to do the whole, both spots of it tonight, OR, right?
That's the request tonight, yes. Yep.
Well, hang on a minute. So it would be, okay, let's talk about this just from a high level. So let's remember that the city engineer is in review of this as well. And so that is really the catalyst for the request for the traffic study.
Well, the traffic study, I know, I go every day, twice a day, 4 times a day that way. So I'm well aware of the traffic there.
What I'm getting at is, I believe it's critical on our part to make sure that we allow the city staff to continue to be the catalyst for that step.
I understand, but my concern is, we've got Asbury Road, and there's stuff up on Asbury and stuff, but we've got basically, with the exception of the church and the high school, we've got a lot of single-family residences there. And I'm concerned putting that density in those 2 areas for those single families as an infill. I'm not real comfortable with it. I'll be upfront, I'm not comfortable with that much density going in that area.
I would argue the issue is we don't fully understand what the density is. Right now, what we know of is 23
units. Mm-hmm.
And I think what we're referring to is the green space that would be
But the
built.
problem is, if we rezone that whole thing now, it's already rezoned.
Well, but your traffic engineer from the city still has.
It's not just traffic. It's not just traffic, it's density.
And you're opening a gate for all of these options, which we don't have a
Yep,
plan.
there's all these options, or there's how many more apartments and stuff. That's all single family there, and you go, and I'm not in favor of it.
Okay. Any other conversations, questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I understand the concerns that were just brought up. I do think it feels like from the perspective that we've heard tonight from the members of the community that their concerns about density were related to the traffic, and especially we heard that Asbury is I believe an arterial, you said, and then let's see, Clark is a collector, and so they already receive a lot of traffic, not based on the neighborhood itself, but cars driving through the area to get from one side of town to the other, and that drives me to think, at the end of the day, the number of cars that they're going to see is actually not going to increase that much. And in terms of density, I'll just voice my support for, I believe the comprehensive plan calls for infill development where possible. The city is short on housing units right now. And there are times where, the nature of a neighborhood changes over time, and I believe it's important for us to encourage a mix of uses within a neighborhood, and not restrict to single family or multi-use. So again, I completely hear where you're coming from here, but I do believe it's valuable for us to move forward in this direction.
So you're going to fill, okay, we give them that. There's those 2 lots. Where's the green space for the if there's children and stuff? Where's the green space? All these other developments, we just did the one out on by the Asbury Plaza, at the end of Plaza Drive. That's got green space. It's got area and stuff. We're infilling this into an area, and there's green space there now. We're going to take all the green space away because we're going to put more apartments or whatever on this list. Where's the green space?
If I may address that. So as part of DRT, we do review a green space. There's a green space requirement, and that is generally 20% of a lot. Again, it depends on what's proposed. So as you state, it can be any of the principal uses or conditional uses noted in the OR district, section 5-7 there. And yeah, yep.
Yeah, and if I could just further elaborate on that a little bit, Travis. In the event that there's perhaps a use that the commission feels is not appropriate, we can look at those as well. Also, within this section, there are specific bulk regulations, just as a matter of reference. So things such as height, density, and those things would be evaluated based on, for example, you can only have a certain number of dwelling units per lot area, so it doesn't necessarily give you just free reign to construct. There are still certain, and I understand your concerns, Commissioner Chris. Yeah, I just want to make sure I articulate for everyone that there are those additional bulk regulations that would be looked at as well.
And I'm just trying to support, I mean, we have a neighborhood that's obviously very much almost unanimously against this. So I'm trying to back the people of the city as well here with so I will not be supporting this.
Thank you. I do think one other item that maybe hasn't been discussed is this is a property that's for sale, and it's for sale for a reason. The church is not going to host school. And so so it's going to sit there vacant, number one. I think that's a larger problem than anything we've discussed tonight. I'm highly in favor of redevelopment, and I'm also highly encouraged by the process that our city utilizes to make sure that we are within the parameters of each respective code within the UDC. And so I wanted to state that. Having been through it myself, it's a very challenging process, and your I's will be dotted and your T's will be crossed, and if they are not, you will not be successful as the developer. That's just how it works. And so I wanted to state that. So with that, I think we've had a lot of dialogue. Would anybody like to make a motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of the rezoning from R1 to OR for the, is it 3 parcels listed?
Okay.
4.
Was it 3 or was
there
it
4?
1, 2?
There's 4 PIN numbers there.
Okay, so the 4 parcels listed.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and we have a second.
Russell?
Aye.
Semp?
Aye.
Christ?
No.
Kemp?
No.
Mulligan?
Aye. Okay, so this will go before the City Council on the 19th.
Yes, December 19th, that it will go to the city council. It will be a public hearing item as well.
Okay.
For those in the audience who may wish to attend or further reiterate your concerns, that's an opportunity to do so.
Okay, thank you.
And that will go as a recommendation for approval, just for clarification.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you all. All right, we will move on to item number 2, to amend a planned unit development, quasi-judicial, Radford Road, parcel number notated, amend the Dubuque Industrial Center planned unit development. Is our applicant here? Maybe?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I was about ready to drop the item.
Todd Geisler, 12123 Forest Meadow Drive. Just looking to have the zoning adjusted out behind our building on Radford Road.
Todd, did you want to walk through any of this?
What's that?
Did you want to walk through your presentation here? Not so much?
Yeah, I don't know what was put together, I guess. We're looking to, behind our building on Radford Road, we're looking to put up a 60 by 120 storage unit, strictly storage, a little bit of light manufacturing, just directly behind our existing building right now. Wouldn't be open to the public, obviously, just to support our current services. Some closed-in storage and maybe a little bit of light manufacturing space.
Okay. Thank you, Todd.
Your name?
All right. I'm sorry. Did anybody have a question for Todd? Okay. All right. So this is a public hearing. So what I'll do is open it up for public input, if there is any. Okay. Seeing none, I will close it, and we'll move on to our staff report.
Yes, Sheena Moon. Thank you, Chair Mulligan. So the request before you this evening is an amendment to the existing planned unit development for the Dubuque Industrial Park. And the proposed amendment, as the applicant articulated, affects a parcel that currently sits just to the east of their existing property off of Radford Road. They are the current owners of the parcel that's outlined in the kind of checkered print here. And currently, the land use map within the planned unified, or the PUD rather, within the ordinance, designates this parcel as open space. And so what that means is that it's not currently developable for the property owner. What they are seeking this evening is an amendment to the land use map within the planned unit development, the ordinance for this zoning, or for this PUD. And they're requesting to change that designation from open space to industrial use space. So a little bit about the property. It's about 5.5 acres, as I mentioned, located east of their existing property off of Radford Road. And then, as I mentioned, again, they're looking to reclassify that property within the PUD land use map from open space land use to industrial land use. We also, as a part of that, would recommend an amendment to the setback classification map that's within the ordinance to basically allow for the ordinance is unique in that it articulates the setbacks differently than we kind of generally do in our code. It has a map and it correlates certain setbacks to certain topography even. And so we would want to amend that to be consistent with like what a side setback would be along that property versus the more extreme designation that requires currently more additional setback. The other development standards that currently exist within the PUD, so that would include the permitted land uses, accessory uses, lot and bulk development standards, signage, site lighting, stormwater management, all of those would still apply. This would not amend any of those specific regulations. And then in addition to this, they would be required to go through the site plan review process as a part of any development on that lot. That, as we mentioned earlier in tonight's meeting, that would engage the city's development review team, in which they would look at all different aspects of the development, including, from an engineering standpoint, planning, fire, safety, all of those. So that would be part of the next steps in the process if this rezoning were to be approved this evening. And so what I've proposed here is just showing you an updated map, which would show, as again, that lot was green previously and now showing it as gray. And then again, adjusting the setback classification between the property that would just be more consistent with a developable lot. And so those are really the two principal changes that they're requesting to the ordinance. And with that, we're available to answer any questions you might have.
Sheena, why was this left out in the first place?
So the lot, So we have a number of, in this particular ordinance, as you can see in the map here, there are a number of designated open spaces. A lot of that was for stormwater management. And so that would be one of the challenges that this applicant would be looking at when developing this property, would be managing the stormwater on the site. And so, so that is likely why it was originally left as green space.
Okay. Yeah, I think I can see really a grade change there. Okay. All right. Any other questions for staff?
So Sheena, you mentioned that with the proposed addition, there would be a site plan review process followed
That is correct.
to address
Yes.
concerns like stormwater?
Yes, stormwater would most certainly be a part of that review. And as you mentioned, Chair Mulligan, it is fairly steeply sloping. So there's definitely a good amount of planning to do to make sure they're appropriately addressing the stormwater needs and requirements.
Okay. All right. Any conversation amongst the group? If none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to amend the Dubuque Industrial Center Plan Unit Development as submitted? As submitted?
Submitted.
I'll second that.
Very good. We have a motion and we have a second. Jason?
Kim?
Aye.
Russell?
Aye.
Semp?
Aye.
Christ?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that motion does pass, and it will go before our city council on December 19th.
Yes.
Gosh, in the world did I write that? Thank you, Todd. Okay, with that, are there any items from the public that needs to be discussed? All right. Any items from the commission? You know, I'll make one note that I think might be of value for us to consider is it's interesting to, so each situation tonight prompts a next step in many instances, right? And I could see a to-do list, for example, for an applicant, right? That says, okay, tonight we approved of something or rezoning of something. Here's the 5 steps, the 2 steps, the no steps that are in front of this particular individual. 90% of the time, it's not necessarily too relevant, but like for times like tonight, I think it can be just to identify that and talk through it, for better or for worse, whatever that might be.
And I think, though, there's some things that everybody's not going to agree on, that it's going to be a great thing.
True.
At all.
Yeah. Yep.
That's why there's 7 of us here.
That's
You
right.
know, and
Yeah. I just wanted to share that.
But to that end, Matt, though, I'm not trying to shoot it down or anything. Usually the first step in any process with planning services starts with a pre-application, a pre-submittal meeting.
Yep.
And in general, that's where all that stuff will be brought up.
Yeah.
So I guess it kind of is there. It's just there's not a specific 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 list.
I look at it from a public perspective where
I see what you're saying.
Their first
We're here on the
view-
process.
Yeah, I mean, the process, it didn't start 10 minutes ago. It started 3 months ago, whatever. And frankly, I think it's good from the city's perspective to identify this isn't a willy-nilly process that, when something hits city council, people show up, it's the first time they heard of it, and they said, here's the 10 reasons I love it or the 10 reasons I hate it. Well, this has been worked on for a year, good or bad or not, but just to identify, here's what's occurred up until this point. Food for thought. Kick it around. I don't know if it's a great idea or a terrible idea.
And we
Applicants are aware.
And we as staff,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
oh, I'm so sorry, I interrupted you. As staff, we could include a section in our reports, we could include a section in our presentations. I think there's always value in helping educate the public on the process. So we can certainly consider and look at something of that nature that might just, I'm not necessarily saying it's going to address every conversation and, smooth over every challenge or concern, but I certainly think that, we are wanting to make sure people understand that it's not just the meeting tonight, that there is a process. So
I would
yes.
suggest adding that sort of information into the notifications that you send out to the neighboring property owners.
We could certainly look at that, yes. Thank you, Rich.
I mean, it could be as simple as refer to this online document, and we are at step 3 in that online document at this time.
Sure.
It might be anything from pre-application conference, blah, 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 all the way down to site plan submittal, final approval.
Yep.
Blah, a huge list. And we're up here.
Yep.
'Cause we're nine times out of 10, we're on the way up here side of the world, not the way down here, waiting for dozers to start scraping dirt away.
So I will say too that I think this is the time to begin public engagement. I think it's important, as you mentioned before, for the public to understand that nothing has been kind of baked in, so to speak, already. This is really where the dialogue is occurring. So I think that is important to be part of that. And we can certainly look at ways that we can further educate and articulate and share that information with the public and just in general. Yep. Thank you for that feedback.
One more thing, though. I think we have to watch what we say sometimes when we say, like, I noticed when you said tonight, the city needs housing, I think sometimes when those things are said by this table, that gives the public the idea that, well, the city needs it. We're just, because they need it. And that makes me uncomfortable. I don't want them to ever feel that because we say the city needs this, we're automatically, this is good because they need it. They might need it, but maybe it doesn't fit in, So I think we have to be aware of what we say when we're talking with the public.
I'll say too, I think I can,
I mean,
I understand what you're saying, and especially using the word city, maybe then community, because that's really what I mean when I say that. I don't mean the city government needs this. We're talking about the needs of the community as a whole.
That the city's articulated a need for this, yes, versus we need this project, I think is what you're trying to say, right?
Yeah.
And in light of that, wanting to evaluate, is this appropriate? Yes, I think I understand where you're going with that.
But I mean, the general public that doesn't deal with all this all the time doesn't understand. They just hear, city needs it. They're, whoa, wow.
That's fair.
That's just a takeaway.
Yeah.
Anything else from the commission? Anything from staff this evening?
Anything from staff?
We lost Travis.
Nothing from you. I see Wally in the audience. He may have some feedback and comments.
Good evening, Planning Services Manager Wally Wernmott. Just to inform you, coming up in April, we have an Iowa State University does a zoning and land use workshop. And we currently have that scheduled. It'll be in April. I'll be able to send that out. We invite all zoning commissioners, zoning board of adjustment members. We'll be sending out a meeting invite for that. It's in person. We're looking at having it down at the Jewel Operations Training Center. It's actually a great workshop. It's the basics of zoning, where it gets in a lot of the conversations where we talk about public engagement, how do we engage our public, how do we talk about zoning regulations, what does the state of Iowa allow us to do, talks about our different chapters of the state code, talks about variances, talk about how we conduct meetings like you were just discussing tonight, where you're all individual judges that have been appointed by city council, so everyone has their ways how they approach things and discussions and vote, as you hear, like the city council. What I'm very appreciative of tonight is when we have people that are speaking for or against, that they be able to state their opinions, which is what they perfectly can do. But then also, get that very clear and made to the public so they know where individuals stand. A lot of times when we have situations where people vote no, or sometimes vote people yes, we have the citizens then contact us the next day saying, well, why did they vote no? And that's not for us to make a determination of why. Commissioner or a member of a different board makes a decision. So it's nice when people state tonight, it's like, I'm going to vote no this because of X, Y, and Z, or I'm going to vote in favor of this because of X, Y, Z. So that's very transparent to the individuals that are in our audience. And then also we're recorded, so this information is available to anyone who wants to be able to watch the future meeting. So those are just two things I just wanted to touch on with everyone here that we'll have coming before us. But that zoning workshop is very good. I don't know, Martha or Rich, you've attended one, I think, right?
Oh, well, over my career, I've probably been to it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, 2 or 3 times. We're actually hosting it, and city council members will be invited to it as well as the zoning board of adjustment and staff. So.
Did we host one
as
here about
members of this
5,
commission?
8 years ago or so?
Yeah, about 5 or 8 years ago. It's nice because it's the basics of zoning, and it's basically directed toward public officials and boards and commissions like yourself. So it's tailored to individuals, and we'll definitely be holding that. It's typically 2 to 3 hours.
Got a meeting.
And it provides a lot of background information. So.
Thank you.
Are you guys going to send a calendar invite out for that?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Are you going to send a calendar invite out? for
Yeah,
that?
there will
Okay.
be a calendar invite.
Yeah,
I think
we'll
it's
send out a calendar invite.
April 24th, I believe.
It's a Monday night,
evening.
so
Yeah.
it'll start at 5:30.
It's the 24th.
Yep, but I just want to get that information. We'll send it out well in advance so people can adjust their schedule if they can. So, great.
Great. Thank you, Wally. Anything else? No? All right. I'll entertain a motion to.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second that.
Favor?
Aye. Meeting adjourned.